Hi, everybody, and welcome along. It's good to have your company today. My name is Paul Bottrell, and I am the head trader from Actions to Wealth. It is great to have your company. I'm just going to jump back into Zoom and share the screen, run you through the new competition before we get to the team and the show. So we're starting a new competition, guys. It'll run every week. Let me see if I can get that stuff out of my way. Let me see if I can get that stuff out of your way. So every week we're running the Euro US dollar prediction competition. You get to enter each day. We're going to start today. It's just gone up. This week's winner will get a $50 Actions to Wealth product voucher. There will be different, I'm about to come up on the Facebook talking about this stuff. So you can enter this once a day and you get a chance to win a $50 voucher from Actions to Wealth. We will have other prizes in there. We'll be doing the Traders Toolbox. Here's the, look, do make sure you click on the competition rules. We're using a Fusion demo account for the pricing, so make sure that if you need one of those, you can click on there. Here's the basically the terms and conditions. But pretty simply, all you need to do is jump in here. You can do it once a day. Click on and see if you can start. The company's got 120.60. I've got 121.72. I expect to win with 121.72 if I'm honest, but you guys should still play just in case. So that's on the Actions to Wealth Facebook page if you are looking to play the Euro US dollar prediction. Let's get on to some more serious stuff right now. Let's get into some trading stuff. And I'm going to go, first of all, let me just check if Julian is with us. Looks like he is.
Good evening, Paul, and hello, everybody.
Hey, Julian, great interview, mate. Did you enjoy it?
I did. Ainsley has reminded me that we probably need to cover more a little about her journey to fund management, which was sort of the title for the presentation. But we got so carried away with talking about markets and how to be a better trader. I didn't want to stop her flow. And it's, as always with these things, we'll have her on next time, folks. Don't worry about it. We'll definitely get to the bottom of her journey to professional fund management. But I think sometimes the content's better as we let the interview flow and get to talk about what's happening at the moment, which is actually a pretty key thing, right? So look, macro environment wise, where am I standing right now?
Mate, let me comment on that. Then I'm going to come back and reintroduce you for the macro, so that my knows to start the recording from that and leave this part out of the recording for the macro. But just want to say I completely agree with you, by the way. I thought the stuff you did was brilliant. And it's, in all honesty, everyone's journey is cool, but markets are really what traders are interested in. I thought some of the stuff on the gold stuff particularly interesting and really valuable. So I really enjoyed it. And as I say, you can have Ainsley back on another time in the future and go back over her journey. But I thought the stuff you did was brilliant. Now I'm going to pause for about 2 seconds and I'm going to come back and introduce your macro market. Is that okay, Julian?
That's absolutely fine, Paul.
Cheers, mate. Hey everybody, welcome to Trader Talk Radio for today, the 24th of April 2021. It's good to have your company, and we're going to start off with a macro market overview with our macro market expert, Julian McCree. Julian, coming to us live from Auckland, New Zealand. Julian, it's been an interesting week for macro stuff. What have you got for us this week?
Hi Paul, hi everybody. This week I'm trying to find, and I have to admit this, it's the end of the month, right? So what normally tends to happen at the end of the month? So generally speaking, in this situation, we find the stock markets normally at the end of the month tend to trade reasonably well. Offsetting that, we have a number of important key technical levels coming up in the markets in the S&P and also in the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones. We've got quite poor breadth in the NASDAQ. The S&P is doing sort of okay. The Dow's not doing too badly. But I'm quite concerned really about the way in which the overall US stock markets are trading. You guys have already heard my views around this a couple of times on this show. I think somewhere around about these price levels, somewhere between 41 and 4,200 on the S&P. I think we're going to take a pause at least, and maybe set back for a little bit in a correction. I guess really for me the big news is what's going to happen next to our favorite currency of Bitcoin and actually some more of the crypto market. So last week we saw two things happening. We saw a general fall in the crypto markets. Volatility began to pick up, not surprisingly, as the markets began to fall away a little bit. We saw Bitcoin get down, I think, on its way to quite an important level. I think probably the middle of the week might prove to be, better from a timing perspective in terms of a potential bottom. But maybe we hit it over the weekend at that 47,000, and maybe we go and revisit that. I'm not sure. Maybe Shukri has a bit more of an angle on that, but I think 45,000 for me is a bit of a line in the sand. If we can't hold that, I think that the Bitcoin market for the time being is probably going to continue its downtrend to who knows where. Don't forget, it started the year at about 30,000, I believe. So it pretty much went doubled over the course of the first quarter. So a setback isn't unreasonable. Certainly a setback since the rally it's had since August is not unreasonable at all. So the question we all have about the cryptocurrencies, is this a correction or is this something more meaningful? We're obviously never going to know. We don't know until after the event has unfolded. We tend to trade it as we see it, but there are going to be some key levels, and obviously somewhere around 45,000. And as I recall from our previous analysis as well, too, 32,000 is a pretty key number. And heaven forbid we go even lower, then I think 26,000 is also a big number as well, too. And again, in Ethereum, we got down to we set off from about 1,600. That's going to be incredibly key, with probably some support around near-term support around the 2,000 mark. Again, Shukri might have a slightly better angle on that than I have, but let's bear that in mind. It was a bit of a rough week, I think, for the cryptos last week, and the technical pattern doesn't look quite so hot now on the daily and weekly charts. So we'll see, looking for stabilization there. I think when you look around other markets, there's been some things happening, but really it's been a bit of a consolidation in the interest rate front. That interest rate, the long-term interest rates in the States and pretty much everywhere else have either fallen or stabilized at the current levels. And I think that's given a bit of a bid to the gold market. We've seen that trade okay last week, and I expect that to continue. You heard, for those of you on Trader Cafe, and Ainslie will talk about this later on, there's some quite key technical levels that if the market does go back to revisit will probably be quite good buying opportunities. It's at the moment in a short-term bull trend, which I think really is probably something to do with that interest rate environment that we've seen that's been fairly benign, and yields have been falling for the last couple of weeks. Now, what's interesting about that, and they may well start to rise again briefly, but if you look at some of the commercial positions that we're seeing on the COT report, and Ash possibly will speak about that later on, you can see significant commercial long interest in some of those interest rate markets. They're expecting yields to continue to go lower. Certainly the short interest positions from the small speculators is somewhat extreme. Reflecting really the sell-off in bonds and the rise in interest rates over the course of the last 3 or 4 months. And I think that actually is probably as much of a contrary indicator for where interest rates are going to go as you're going to get right now. And so I would view this as being a good environment for interest rates. And if that is the situation, that interest rates stabilize or fall slightly over the course of the next few weeks, especially if asset prices start to move down, then it wouldn't be too surprising to me to see gold being the outperformer of all of those. And we'll have to see what happens around that. Now, there is some more news, I think, over the weekend around the oil market. When I look at the oil market, I'm always a little bit in trepidation about trying to figure out what's going to happen next with oil. I think above $75, $80, anything is possible, that we could get up there. But the supply situation is considerably different to the last 5 or 6 years, where we've seen similar prices in oil above the $70 mark. There seems to be an overhang of supply in the market right now. We really haven't seen that full economic growth pick up post the COVID environment. And as a result of that, I believe there's something like 11 or 12 million barrels a day of potential surplus oil able to be brought onto the market, which clearly will be a bit of an overhang for the oil traders. That doesn't mean to say the market might not go up, but will it stay up, I think, is probably more of a key question. So my view on oil remains long-term bullish. I see oil north of $80, $90, $100 even as we go into the early 2020s. This is just getting started now. And I have a fundamentally bullish position on oil. But right now we've come an awful long way in a relatively short space of time. And I think that's probably the story, to be honest with you, with a lot of asset markets out there. If you look at the copper chart, if you look at charts of some of the grain markets, if you look around at a lot of the different asset markets, we're seeing those supply chain shortages really force up prices. Lumber would be the poster child, I guess. If you think there's been some rallies in Bitcoin and some of those digital currencies, go check out a lumber chart. It's gone completely bananas. And there's been a pattern repeated, I guess, around the world in terms of commodity price rises on the back of possible supply constraints. Now, The big question is that short-term inflationary, long-term inflationary? People believe it's more long-term inflationary. I'm still falling into the camp of short-term. For me, it's just about the supply constraints. They will be eased at some point in time, possibly when the pandemic begins to ease along those lines. Sure, things are going to be more expensive, but I don't think inflation is sustainable until we see a sustained economic recovery. But maybe I'm wrong about that. We'll see what happens over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. But I think that really is is the core of my arguments at the moment. I'm concerned about a lot of people buying into the long-term inflationary outlook being pretty bouncy, pretty volatile from here, and maybe that's going to be the case. I still think it's a case to be proven right now. I worry that this is just a short-term thing, which is going to, as the central banks say, go away. And if that is the case, then interest rates right now are about right, and they probably shouldn't be an awful lot higher. They certainly shouldn't be the 2 to 3 percentage points higher that some people are suggesting for long-term interest rates. And that would, in my mind, convey quite a bit of damage to the markets, having interest rates double from where they are now. I think that would be a very bad scenario. So yeah, look, I think there's going to continue to be a little bit of vol. I remain concerned about stocks. I think some of these asset prices have got a bit overdone. We'll start to see them come back. And as far as the currencies are concerned, the euro's, I guess, stuck in a relatively short-term pattern, bouncing between 123 and 117, and we're stuck here right about the middle of that. It's been a short-term bullish trend. Is that going to continue? I'm not too sure. Similarly with dollar yen, I'm not too sure about how long this fall in dollar yen is going to continue. Again, I think it's a function of these asset markets in the States, and if people decide to sell something, then you tend to sort of head home a little bit with your money, and that might cause a rally in the yen, a fall in dollar yen. We'll see what happens. So right now, for me, I'm playing a watching game, seeing what's out there, seeing what's going to tweak my interest about what's happening. I think for me, it's a stock story, and the reaction of the US stock market to the next couple of weeks of earnings reports and other technical benchmark timings is really critical for me too. There's also some fundamentals around potential tax selling that people need to do over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks following that potential capital gains increase that was announced by Biden. What's going to happen there, and what does that mean? It'll no doubt get watered down, but it still could be pretty dramatic. So a few things out there right now, but they're sort of like grey clouds, nothing black that I see. We'll see what happens in the price action. So for me, good luck everybody, and I hope you enjoy your week's trading.
Mate, can I ask you a question before you go?
Sure.
Mate, we saw the first long-term retail interest rate rises in New Zealand this week. ASB pushing up the 5-year interest rates. Got to say, I wasn't too pleased about it. A bit of a sign that the markets are starting to price in recovery. No.
Look, I'm going to sum it up like this, Paul. Quick bit of math for everybody, right? Interest rates at 2%. Let's call them vaguely 2%, right? It doesn't matter. Interest rate at 2% going to 4 means your mortgage costs double. I don't think there's a family in New Zealand that could afford a doubling in their mortgage costs. So for me, higher interest rates in New Zealand is just a smokescreen. I think it's a short-term view reflecting maybe a rise in those medium-term interest rates that I don't think will be survivable. And New Zealand certainly couldn't raise their rates on their own, otherwise the currency is going to go to parity with the dollar. It'll just fly. And I don't think the central bank or the government, or in fact any exporter for which New Zealand is famous and is a primary exporter, wants any of those things to take place. So logic would suggest that that's not going to be the case. We'll probably be last guys off the rank to raise interest rates. I am unconvinced about a rise in interest rates being at all sustainable in this environment. I think they stay low for a very, very long period of time, regardless of what the inflation rate is.
So, man, ASB pushed their mortgage rates out on Friday.
Yep.
But long-term only, right? So central bank will stay where it is, and that'll keep 1, 2, and 3-year rates in tight, right? But the 5 years going out surprised me.
Yeah, look, maybe they just don't want to build their book, right? I don't think anybody else followed suit right now. It could just be they don't want to build their book anymore and they've got enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Cheers, Julian. As always, thank you very much. Loved the trader interview beforehand, and I think we're working on a pretty special guest for the next one, aren't we? 2 weeks away. Hopefully we'll get some more information about that coming out. Remember, guys, every 2 weeks, Julian is on with a trader interview, and in between he's either doing some work with our staff or with the clients. Make sure you join us for that. Next up for us is moving on from the macros to Ash. Ash, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, very good. Listening with interest on Julian's take of things. I'm pretty much in step, but there's a few things I've got a slightly different opinion on, which I will bring in here. And I'm going to start with the charts this week, and then we're going to look at the COT data and see why I've got the opinion I've got. And I'm starting with gold. Gold is in a downtrend, so we're looking at the weekly here, and the COT data is correlated to the weekly price action. So, looking at the weekly chart, we are in a downtrend with gold. Last week's bar is showing us that the market did pause, and this is a particular bar that could go in either direction. So it could explode to the upside, or it could still move to the downside. And I'm still unconvinced about the gold rally. And I'll bring in why I think that in a moment. So gold is, as I say, in a downtrend, and until it starts to break through really the top of this bar and a little bit beyond, then I'm sticking with that particular side of the argument. The really interesting charts I think at the minute are really exactly what Jules was saying about the indices, and I completely agree with him about indices. And I think the term he used about grey clouds rather than black clouds I think was quite poignant, because there's a bit of a lack of messaging really going on. This is the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq, yes, has hit a bit of a blockage up here. But the pattern I've got just kind of stretches up a little bit higher. So I think the Nasdaq could get up to somewhere around about 14,500 before we see a more significant move to the downside. But that doesn't mean that I'd like to buy it to that point, because I think the Nasdaq is probably starting to lose steam up here. And the reason I bring the Nasdaq up more than the S&P is that I think the Nasdaq probably will be the one that suffers the most. I think that Biden announcement of an interest, of a tax hike, is probably more likely to affect this market than the others. So I'm interested in shorting, and I'm interested in shorting the Nasdaq, but I'd really like to see 14,500 first if possible. But that doesn't mean this area is out of options. I may well take it here, and this is where it starts. The message starts getting a little bit more interesting when we look at the VIX. Now, the VIX is more in relation to the S&P because it is the S&P volatility index, but as I say, when it comes down to the companies in the S&P, the ones that I think are going to get more exposed to things like a tax hike are the companies that are in the Nasdaq. They're Nasdaq companies. So last week, yes, we tried to get a rally going, but it failed ultimately. But 2 weeks ago, we had this really lovely engulfing bar. Now we'll flip over to the COT data, and we're going to look at the Nasdaq. We're going to look at the VIX, and we're going to look at gold, and see if we can build an argument. The VIX, first of all, let's have a look at the VIX. So with the COT data with the VIX, we just saw a little uptick. Now, all we've got, the reason I think that Julian's comment about grey clouds rather than black clouds is poignant is because the message at this stage is not extreme. So it's not really shouting anything specific. All it's giving us is just little pieces of piecemeal, really, that we can possibly grab onto and see if we can deem some kind of information and some kind of bias from. This ticking up just a little bit on the net longs just says to me that people are getting a little bit nervous. Now they're not all out and out panicking right now, but they're getting a little bit nervous. So this is the net buying here, and this is the index, and the index is falling down to the lower scale. Now the lower scale would normally suggest a sell-off, as it did here and as it did here. So when we see the index at the lower end here, we see a sell-off. We see an index at the lower end here. We tend to see a sell-off. I shouldn't say we see a sell-off. We tend to see a sell-off. We see at the high end here. This suggests buying the VIX. So this is getting around about the 50% mark here. So we'd want to see this start to move in the opposite direction, but it's slowing. That's the significant thing here, and the net buying is just starting to pop up. Now, if we look at the Nasdaq, this is the E-mini on the Nasdaq. There's the price action up there, and we're seeing the buying on the index below this 50 line. So it's below the 50% line, and it's just dropping off a little bit, not massively, but just a little bit. And as I say, I'm just trying to garner some kind of hint of what might be happening here. There was a little uptick in the selling there. Which is all this is suggesting, that we're a little bit early to actually get a genuine directional bias here. It's just saying, be a little bit careful this week, because volatility may well pick up, and it could be a really good environment for day traders, but not necessarily for people that are going to be holding longer term. And this is gold here. This is gold. And the index is floating around this 50% mark. So again, not extreme enough for us to get any kind of idea of which way the gold market is gone, but it's just a little bit negative. When we look at the selling here, yes, those commercials are always ultimately selling, but we look at the selling here, then there's some open water between the buying and selling, and we just see just a little bit of flatlining there with the buying. So it's saying that if the gold market is to pump from this point, then it's probably more likely to be retail traders, which means that there is a lack of liquidity, and it means that we need to be a bit more careful when we are trying to pick a longer term move in gold. So it is possibly a good scenario for day traders for the coming week, rather than people that want to try and take longer term positions. If we then look at some of the other possible indicators, the yen has seen an uptick in the commercial index here, which is certainly suggesting that any nervousness is possibly going towards the currency, this currency, rather than maybe towards gold as a potential protective asset. So we might be looking at the yen as their protection asset rather than gold. And we're still seeing the buying quite nice and healthy. There's some open water between the buy line and the sell line here, between the yen and between the yen buying and the yen selling. But we're not seeing a massive uptick. So again, it's not showing us that if we take a longer term position, we are likely to get just chopped around a little bit before it becomes a bit more defined. And the seasonal chart on the yen shows us that we do potentially have a nice long run to the upside to around about November. So it could happen at any time. It gets a little bit choppy over the next few months, but it looks like that position could start to build in yen longs. And we should look at the Aussie dollar, because the Aussie dollar, as Jules was saying about the Kiwi, Aussie's very, very similar. It's commodity based, and it's going to be to do with the exports. The Aussie dollar has still seen some potential buying, but the index is very, very low down here. So there looks like, and this is more of a kind of like, an overview of what's the general mood in the market right now. And the general mood appears to be that people are non-committal, but they are probably protecting their positions right now, and they're protecting their positions by the looks of this, with going towards the yen and maybe cutting back on some of those growth insinuating currencies like the Aussie, and it would be the same with the Kiwi as well.
Cheers, Ash. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. It was good to have a look at what the data is showing us. Next up, we've got Ainslie, fresh from her interview with Julian to talk about gold. And Ainslie, are you ready?
I am indeed. How are you, Paul?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. How are you? How's the gold chart looking this week?
Look, we apart from Friday, let's just have a little check. See it, Ash. I'm just going to take over there.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, share this gold screen. Let's start with the weekly first, because that's really an interesting chart here. So anybody looking at the screen, it's the second from the right, third from the left. And we called out this big bull flag a couple of weeks ago before this double bottom. I think it was actually, now I'm looking at it, it was a couple of weeks ago indeed, because we were looking here I was wondering how far it would come down because that was starting to concern me greatly. But look, over the last couple of weeks, we've had a double bottom, as you can see it very clearly around that 1682.50 mark. And then we've bounced up to the top of the channel. Yes, we are still technically in a downtrend. We are. But what we've had here is a double bottom. If we pop back over now to the daily chart, I just want to pull out a bull flag because as I said, we crack this top level in the next couple of weeks with everything that's happening at the moment. Even if and gold being gold, I would expect to see some kind of retest or whatever. I'm looking carefully at also just keeping a monitor on these indicators. We're also looking at if it goes to the top and cracks this channel, and we have a technical setup on this bull chart, we're off to the races here with all the fundamentals, with all the other bits and pieces that are happening. We could be looking good. So what we've got here, let's break it down. We've had the double bottom. We've had weeks, if not pull my fingernails out, months of consolidation, which has just been, yeah, next level. Then we had this very interesting, and we'll just pop it back down. Oh, if we go down to we were following the blue box for quite some time on the 4 hour because it was like watching paint dry, and we'd have a little pop out and back straight back into the consolidation box. But then we had on the daily a lower high, and that lower high became really, really interesting when it was starting to observe lots of levels. It liked the 50 EMA and all the rest of it, and then we sort of had this break. I was so nervous because I was waiting for it to come screaming back into the box again, like it had done on every other occasion. If we just scroll back there, it seems to have held. Now on Friday night, yes, we did have this big bar back down here, but I'll just quickly flick across to the S&P, and for the first time in ages, we've had a correlation. So the S&P went up and gold came down. So hello, correlation kicked back in. Where are we going to next? So we've seen where we've been. We've been monitoring this ad nauseum, but patience. We crack this and keep going, and this bull flag, this technical chart plays out. We're good. We've had the pullback, we've had the retest. It didn't like it down here in the middle of this last retracement, shallow retracement, larger retracement, and then an immediate bounce. I would like to see this pull off a little bit more. The 20 above the 50 will give me a golden cross, which is something I always like to see, and a little bit more positive. And I get, again, if we get it up there, it's tried to crack that 1800 mark. We didn't quite get there. It didn't go, it was 1798 type of mark. Obviously, we can see that with R1 on a weekly R1. So yeah, I'm hoping to see that we've had the retracement, we've had a pull up, pull back down, and I'd like to see the move. Next move, obviously for me, is a target of around that 1850 for this coming week. That's what I'd like to see. That's for me, Paul. On gold.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Shukri and talk cryptocurrency, and then we'll come back and talk oil with you, Ainsley. Thank you very much. Shukri, interesting week in cryptos. They say that when Bitcoin crashes, Shukri, you joining?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cheers, mate. They say that when Bitcoin crashes, the altcoins rally. Bitcoin at the moment popped down below the $50,000 level, about 49,500 as we speak. What are your thoughts on crypto markets? What's going on?
Hey, it's very interesting because there are two things that are happening behind the background. The first one is tax. So I'm curious. I have to ask Gordon more questions tomorrow about the 14th, because now I'm even confused. Will there be more tax selling on the 14th? Of course. So We lost the 100, we lost the 50 moving average support, was supported by this 100. But take note, in the previous rallies, it takes 12 days before it can return to the 50. So my thing is, even if it rebounds, I think it's going to be rejected here again because we are coming up against the 14th. So, you know, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, even if it rebounds. The 12 days will be like May 1st. So watch around for that day. I don't think it goes beyond that. But other than this, on Bitcoin, what's happening is the news came out today. The New York Stock Exchange is filing for Valkyrie Bitcoin ETF to be listed. So we've seen a lot in Canada. We have not seen in the US. So that could bring up Bitcoin. But again, as I said, this tax thing is just something that is too big to ignore. But look at this, Paul, look at this. Now, we talked about Solana last week when it was at 30, right? And then it went down, it dumped, and then it goes up again. Now, this is telling you something. And this chart is also telling you something. This is Ethereum against Bitcoin. So you see the second liners, which is the Ethereums, the Solanas of the world, are actually pumping up. And if not for that Biden news, Ethereum, I think, would be close to 3,000, which is his first target now. So I see more on Ethereum now. There's something called EIP 1559 that kind of was in the news last week. And not a lot of people know this. Guys, Bitcoin is fixed supply. Fine, it will go up, right? Now, Ethereum is not fixed supply. Ethereum has inflation of over 6%, but the EIP 1559 will actually make it fixed supply. So that is the thing that people were expecting to bring it up to 3,000. So I'll be a buyer anytime on a dip to around 2,000. I just buy it there. And that's really the bullish news here.
With Ethereum, quite often when you're doing new coin launches and those kind of things, you've got to own Ethereum to pay the fee to get into the deal.
Correct,
right?
correct.
A lot of people at the moment are trying to get into those high reward IDOs.
Yes.
They've got to have Ethereum. If you don't have Ethereum, you can't play the game, right?
Yes, and here's the deal, Paul. Why is the things like Solana and others like that going up? Because they are going to be their own thing like Ethereum. So next time, if you want to buy an IDO in the Solana ecosystem, I think that's now you have to buy Solana now. So if you look at the Bitcoins, they are generally going up. Like what was Julian was mentioning, Neo, same thing. The big guys, not necessarily Bitcoin. Bitcoin's only about ETF and taxes nowadays.
So what we're saying, Shukri, I know you've got this Crypto Saturn now. You've got a group of maybe a dozen guys who are working together. Yeah. Mostly working, you know, to keep up with all of these new, what do you call it, infrastructures, these new ways. This is becoming full-time work, right? If you want to make a full-time salary from Bitcoin, which you guys are doing more than, you've actually got to start and get it. This is not a small retail play anymore. This is a get a team together, get skilled, because that's where the money lies, right? You got to get the right people.
Correct. And here's where the money lies, really, like you said, Paul. See, imagine one day Solana becomes like Ethereum. It's going to become just as complex, but it's still now new. So if we little guys get in here, we make the money first. Isn't that what happened? We made the money first, and then the big guys came in, same play. And there's going to be many of these. You know, there's going to be so many of these. That's why we are also looking at the best way on how to take advantage of this.
So I'm not quite sure what the message from Simon says, Soul Starter, hashtag SOS. I'm not quite sure what that is, but
correct.
So what you're really saying here is you think Solana becomes one of these ones where we might be able to get in early, get some money, and it's $40 now, maybe $2,000 or $3,000 in the future. It's going to become a major coin over some period of time for yours. But I've got to believe, I've got no idea what Solana is, but that chart, you should look at that chart and you think that's in pretty good territory, right?
Oh yeah. So now I think it's time to look beyond Bitcoin. And in fact, I think Simon has been doing this. Like when you sell for profit, you don't want to sell into US dollars. You want to sell into things like Ethereum. You want to sell into things like Solana because you know they can go up. And in Bitcoin is like gold. Just keep it.
Yep. No, I've got a bit of a tucked away. I'm not planning on letting it go very soon. Anything else before we wrap it up, Shukri?
Yeah, that's it. And join me tomorrow in Gordon's show because I have a lot of questions for him. So
mate, the changes that Biden will bring, they won't affect this cycle in the stock markets. They'll affect the next cycle in the stock markets. But he's not going after the stock markets, guys. Biden is going after you. He's trying to get these Bitcoin millionaires, and he's trying to get some tax out of them. He's trying to get these crypto millionaires, and he's trying to get some money out of them. And honestly, good on him, right? It's a fair call as long as it's a consistent tax. That's why the $1 million threshold. All these guys making millions out of crypto are about to be out in the US. I'll tell you what, mate. If I was you, I'd stay with it.
Yeah,
Paul.
yeah.
I would not be moving to the
Korea. You know what happened in Korea? They took away some of the cryptos for people who didn't pay the tax. So just be nice, okay?
Cheers, Shukri. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Always good to have your thoughts on the crypto market, mate. Do appreciate it. Your show tomorrow night and Wednesday night, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Is that right, for your show time?
7:45 and 8 p.m. Yeah.
7:45 Monday, 8 o'clock on Wednesday, I think it is. Do make sure you come back and catch Shukri for some information on the cryptos. Next, we're going to go back to Ainslie and oil. We're going to go from gold to the black gold. Julian on earlier saying bullish overall, but a few concerns in the short term. Ainslie, do you concur?
Yeah, absolutely. And Shukri, this is what happens when you make too much money, honey.
They come along and they tax you. That is so true. Okay, let me introduce you again because we don't need that in your oil cross. So we just had Ainslie, we just had you on the gold. Now we're going to the black gold. Oil prices, according to Julian, we're still long-term bills. I'm certainly still a long-term bill. What's going to happen short-term?
Short-term, we've got a few things. We were talking. She's ended up really flat at the end of this week. We've had quite the move on oil. As you can see, we're just looking at the 4-hourly chart. We had quite a bit of a pullback. That was actually in relation to what's happening worldwide. And particularly, let's focus on India and the crisis in India with the second wave of the pandemic and their inability to handle the overwhelming disaster. That's really just shocking. But it's a bit of an indicator because India is such a big economy with oil. It's just, okay, we were looking, and it was a very simplistic outlook when oil started to rally. We had the vaccine. We were thinking that lights at the end of the tunnel, all the economies are starting to get a bit of traction, starting to move. And all of a sudden, this last week has actually shown, no, hold the phone. No, it's not happening. And it's very, very volatile at the moment. And oil is moving very, very, in a very fickle manner with regard to what is happening with the fundamentals. So the fundamentals are saying, yeah, don't like what's happening. We're not opening as quickly as we would hope. We've got now a couple of other strains, the UK strain, the South African strain, the Brazilian strain, that's impacting that. And those strains, by the way, are all far more transmissible and in an airborne manner. They're not super mutations of the COVID, but what it's saying is we're not opening as quickly as we thought. We've got more economies going back into lockdown. We've got more economies just putting the handbrake on everything, and that is impacting oil and economic outlook. So we've had this very, very ordinary, and you can see from the EMAs, they've just all stitched around the weekly pivot there. Don't want to know anything, don't want to make a decision in either direction, and just floated. So impact, float, where are we going to next? Now, I'll go to the daily, and the reason I've got these arrows all over the place is I was following a 53-year chart on a seasonal, 53-year seasonal chart, on oil. And this is what we found. It was to go consolidate through January. At the end of January, it was to move up to a double top, so double arrows here, come back down, consolidate, a push back up, and we said to push back up at the end of last week? Yeah, not this week just gone, not this week before last. Oh, sorry guys. And we saw that pull up, and then we saw it come back down towards the end of coming into the last week of April, with the seasonal chart telling me that we've got a bit of a consolidation, a bit more of a move down on oil. And this is what we're seeing. This last week has just been a nothing week, as opposed to this month and a half in here of nothingness. And then for May, the chart that I'm following that so far has been able to give me all these arrows on my daily chart is telling me a bit more of a pull down first couple of days of May before a rally into May. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm just watching this carefully. We don't have too much to go with. We're bouncing off the monthly pivot here with a ring low. Let's just have a look at that. The chart that I'm looking at and following on a seasonal basis is telling me we're going to go to the end of April. So we're the 25th, it's Anzac Day. 25th of April, we're just going to go down, up and down for a little bit more, and then May is a different story. So that's what we're looking at the moment. Going forward, I think this week we'll just see a little bit more of this filter out, this price action going sideways with, call it the fickleness, call it the fundamentals, just call it just not what the market expected to be happening. Let's see how that pans out. But OPEC are keeping a close handle on production as well. And if that's the case and things pick up during the week, I think we're going to see it take off again and be in conjunction with what we see in the charts. Love a good chart.
Cheers, Ainsley. Interesting time for. I really like your analysis on the chart too. Ring low on the monthly pivot. It's closed above last week's weekly pivot. The high of that is this week's weekly pivot. So if we take out the high of Friday's bar, I like where we're heading with oil. I really do. Well, I've been a bull for a little while, so I guess that is. You've got to be careful. Your little biases don't sneak into analysis. I like your analysis.
Right.
Thank you for that, Ainsley. Have a wonderful evening with the girls, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.
Thanks, bye.
Now we're going to go on to relative currency strength. It seems that everybody talks about dollar index, but if you do it to the dollar, why can't you do it to everything? If you do it to everything, why can't you have a look at overall currency strength? Next up is Lloyd. He's going to talk about overall currency strength for us. Lloyd, has it been a good week for you?
Hi, Paul. It's actually been a relatively okay week for me. I mean, any week that makes money is a good week for me.
For all of us, man.
Yeah. All right. So with that, let me share my analysis for this week. Look, for Euro, I think I was actually half expecting Euro to actually reject off 120, but it actually get up and closes above 120, which I was rather surprised. Yeah, considering that this is a really a good level that price will actually bounce or reject. So it seems that such a bullish close does warrant a long for Euro. Yeah, but at the same time, looking at past history price, which is back in 2018, I don't think the run will be very long, but it's still a good run that we possibly get grab some pips off. Yeah, especially for the intraday traders or even the swing traders. Yeah, so this is definitely something to keep a lookout for. Coming up next will be the Canadian index. Now this has the same fate of Euro. You can see that in the Canadian index for the week, on the weekly chart, price is really hugging the $80 level. Yeah, for about 3-4 weeks. And if you look in the price action, is that really the buyers doesn't want to give up the ground. And then finally for last week, they broke above. Yeah, so it's not a really, really strong break. You can see that it's really just a pick above. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to, on Monday or Tuesday, have to see that if there's a retest of $80 level Kiwi. So you can see that Kiwi, very standard, price broke up, higher low, and bounces off $70. Very beautiful. So I'm just going to be bullish about this. Now where price will go, I don't know, but since it gives the really standard cyclicity, why not just get along with the right. Right, so Swiss, you can see that price has been bullish for the past 3 weeks. Probably price is going to just hit up all the way. And on the weekly charts, this is where price actually previously bounces off. Yeah, so just a fair bit, not a very long distance that price can run, but still we can make use of it. Now I didn't rank Swiss really high up, so I'll still probably, if there's a really fantastic setup, then I'll go for Swiss. Otherwise, I'll still be keeping a lookout for Euro, CAD, and Kiwi. Now, pound, any price that is actually near a horizontal level, if it's been hugging around the area, I don't really like to trade it. Yeah, until it gives me clarity. Yeah, so pound is one of those that now is at 140. I'd rather stay off its way until it gives me a clear direction that it's actually bouncing off or that it's actually breaking above.
Nice, man. Nice.
Yeah. Aussie, how long we have been doing this show, and I've been saying that the Aussie index has been ranging. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to break off this area. Yeah, so any range traders out there, I think they're having a good time trading Aussie. to the top and to the bottom. So now we can say that price is really near to the top. We can actually have a good guess that price will actually go to the bottom. So this is the play that may be coming out. Yen, I'm bearish about yen simply is because of this horizontal level. But I would place yen in the position as let me see, Swiss. Was it Swiss? Sorry, pound. Yeah, it's really near a level. You can see, but this is really a short-term horizontal level. So until price give me clarity where it wants to go, I will stay out of it. But the current sentiment for yen will be short simply because price goes down. Simply, this is a retest for me, and I do expect price to actually go down. In the event it did not, then I'll just stay out of this way. Now, DXY, I think 2 weeks back, I'm saying that I don't know where really dollar wants to go. But for now, it's showing me clarity that it goes down to $90. Not a very long run, but still something that we can actually take advantage of. Yeah. So bearish on yen till 80, fair bit of space to run. Now for this week, there are pairs. The pairs that I'm going to look out for is actually dollar cat. So since I'm bullish on cat, bearish on dollar, I'm just waiting for this play, waiting for price dollar cat to break the horizontal level, retest, and I'll just go short. Euro yen, same play, break it level, retest, go long. Now more cautiously is actually where I have Aussie Kiwi. Yeah, so you can see that Aussie Kiwi just now I'm saying that Aussie is actually on a bit of a range, so we can actually hope that, I won't use the word hope, we can see that price for Aussie Kiwi is actually ranging downwards. And since I've ranked that Kiwi is stronger, I'm just looking for Aussie to actually either break this level, retest, go below, or just strengthen a fair bit more, because it has not really reached the high of the range, and then break the level so that I can go short. So these are really just standard setup for me, waiting for a chart to play itself out. That's all.
Lloyd, thanks for that. I really like that. I think that the sometimes for people to get their ideas about the currency index thing is interesting. Mate, TradingView are busy advertising today, aren't they? But I like that when you've got that information, what you do with it's really simple. Break, retest, go. Nice, simple trading stuff that works. I've got a couple of things for you, mate. First of all, thanks for your cross. Second, you're the first one to put a price on the euro on the new competition on the Excellence Wealth Facebook page, mate.
Yeah, should I show that?
Yeah, mate, 122. Yeah, like it.
Yeah, so I was looking at your post, and I was thinking, why not have a look at this chart also? So looking back, I think 122, you can see that price is where hesitation, break above, come back down, retest. Yeah, I just have a guess that price will probably within this week, you'll reach up to 1.22. And then let's see what will happen with the trend at 10th. Yeah, so certainly this is a trend to me. Yeah, it happened for the past 2.5 weeks already. So,
I like it, man. I reckon you're a week early. I reckon we might go there at the end of next week. But the competition, you can enter it every day once, so you can have a few more guesses if you want to. A couple of guesses around the horizontal levels. We're just starting this, and the winner will get a $50 ATW voucher this week. Next week it'll be a different prize. So we're going to do a euro. Pick the euro competition every week, and you can enter it once a week. Thank you very much for that, mate. Enjoyed the cross a lot. Interesting the stuff you're talking about with the ranging currencies. I thought with Geoff being away, he might give me Aussie dollar as a chart to look at today, but he didn't. He gave me a different chart, and I'm going to share screen and talk about that. So when it comes to the technicians' 2 cents worth today, Geoff is away celebrating Anzac Day in Australia, and he's asked me to talk about this chart here. I've got a monthly chart up of Euro GBP, and this is what you call a long-term range. And I want to point out that if you want to, you can definitely pull the bottom of the range down to here. And I don't think there's any doubt that's the full range. But also, if you come back up to this level around here, you do find a number of bottoms. And that might sound a bit weird, It's not meant to sound weird. But we've got the low here, lower the candle here, low here, lower the candle here. So there is some other levels, and we can pull it back up if we want to. And this level has also had a little bit of work. Where we've seen some lows forming here. I don't think this is generally the low. I think that, for mine, the real low is here. I think you can get away with here. But certainly what we are seeing is Euro GBP in a long-term range. What we have seen now is we've seen this bounce back off this horizontal level and taking out this horizontal level. This is a monthly chart, so it's a pretty big bounce on Euro GBP. And look, when I crank down, as Geoff asked me to do, to have a bit of a look on the weekly chart, we've seen a bit of a level here, pull back off it, bit of a run back at it, daily, and again, we need to be aware we've seen a push at this level, a lower high, and now we need to break this level. And what we're looking for, I think, really, just going to get down onto this 4-hour chart, but I think the same thing still applies for us really here. What we're looking for really to get our entry here is to have this level go. If we can get up above this level, get a pullback and a retest and a move longer, I think that's a real winner. The other option for us here is just to be patient and see if we can get a pullback down. Weekly pivot here will move, and I'll just put a tool on here that'll tell us where it'll move so we know. Market scan 6.1, just bring that on here. And if I click on, it's still on this one, eh? Next weekly pivot, I'll click on that. So weekly pivot's going to be around the same actually. And look, our options here are to say we think we've seen this bounce in the range in the big picture, so we're looking for longs. And our longs are break of this level, retest to this level and go long, or wait for a pullback down to this level here. Last week's weekly pivot is always a strong level. In fact, this week's weekly pivot is going to be in the same place. Gives us this nice area through here where we can look for bounce and a move up. So I've been looking either for a retest around this 86.73 level or a break and retest of this horizontal level around 87.11. And either one of those would give me a chance to get long. I won't have a look at Aussie because Geoff's the master of range trading, not me. I'd like to thank you for your company today. I hope you've enjoyed the Sunday Market Analysis show. Do play the new game on the Actions to Wealth Facebook page. Pick the euro. You can enter once a day, and the winner gets a $50 Actions to Wealth voucher. Nice and easy. Share it with your friends. We're going to play it for a while. We're hoping to see a bit of interaction, give you guys something that's a bit of fun. Feel free, in addition to putting your price, to put your theory as to why. So you can say, not much news this week, etc., whatever else it is, but let us know why you're into it, and we will have some fun having a look at that over the coming weeks. Okay, that sums us up for this week. Thank you very much to the team for joining me tonight. It's always great to have your company. We've had Julian, and we've had Ashton, we've had Ainslie, and we've had Shukri, and we've had Lloyd, and appreciate all of your help today, guys. And to those that have joined us in the room, for those that have joined us on YouTube, for those that have joined us on Facebook, for those of you that have joined us on Twitter, thanks for your company. We'll see you next week. Cheers, guys. Have a good week. Remember, stay calm and make good decisions. And if you do, trading will work out.